This is the video from YouTube. It's the Apollo 11 landing, and it actually shows raw footage from the... Now, I'm in shock. This is where I'm actually starting now to find it actually flew over, very discreetly, over an alien base. I know how crazy that sounds. Go to the top right of the screen and you'll see one structure there which I've zoomed in on. It looks like two cylinders joined together and an object coming from top. There's an object next to it. It looks like some very large growth. We see these tubes covertly going from the cliff surfaces. So this is a common feature I've seen in other type of views of the moon. They've got tubes which are like transport type of objects. So there's one tube going over there, and the tubes are used to travel over the various cliff levels. Now I've actually zoomed in on all these areas which are large, and it's just fantastic. So this would be 38 seconds in the actual clip, which is 5 minutes 20 seconds long. So we're actually starting with the clip now. As you see the logo, it's a NASA clip, and they're just flying over. We're now going 23 seconds in the clip. I'll just change the clip now. This shows the actual time period down the bottom. And this is where we start to enter the first strange area. So I'll just quickly enlarge, just put that back on the screen. If you look at this area there, this is where I saw the first objects appearing, which looked very similar to the other objects I filmed. There's triangles, buildings, squares, tubes, and domes. So I'll just enlarge these photos and just quickly pause now, take a few photos and come back. I've just frozen the image at 34 seconds and I'm just getting spectacular images there on the surface. We've got a lot of cliffs and walkways heading up. Now just focus in on that square building right there. You'll see the square entrance or the doorway. You'll see the zigzag structures on top. That's a perfect right angle there. You'll see the cliff surface there and what looks like pillars, supporting pillars on the side. We'll see objects on the cliff there as well. We've got supporting pillars there sideways, one up. There's an entrance right there, supporting pillars. These are fantastic images, and this was 1969, and you'll see I'm trying to focus in. These are like steps or walkways going up there. There's a very good structure right there. I'll try to zoom in on. This is important, this area, because it shows all these bizarre twisting steps or what look like buildings in this area here. I'll try to take a photo. There's a very large dome right there. And there's a tube that leads all the way down to there. So it could be for transport. But the image that I really like is the one up here. You'll see the square doorway. You'll see 1, 2, 3 little white lines parallel. Then at right angles, you see that line going up, then sideways. So I'll zoom in on those areas there. And what looks like supporting pillars on that side. There's a large object there on the cliff surface, and also one on top. There's a rounded object there and a perfect round sphere on that one. Spectacular. I just can't believe all the images I'm seeing. What looks like step forms going up to that object there and that square object right there. That's at 34 seconds. At 34 seconds in the video, I'm concentrating what looks very hard to see, but you'll see those little... I'll just try to bring the screen down a fraction. You'll see those step areas right there. So there is a building right there. If we go up to this area right here, we'll see that square object, steps. Then we'll see cliff platforms right in this area there, and that's where we see the pillars. Now this one goes from there and it goes over that edge. And those photos I'll try to enlarge as well. These are excellent images. The camera I'm using is 5 megapixel, and there's an autofocus. Now, somehow it clears up the grey brown we see here, and it brings up color. The next thing I'll try to do is this area right here. You'll see a tube go up, and then side beams as well. These are very hard areas to actually focus in on, but the way I'm enlarging the pictures and actually doing it, it seems to work. You see that tube there, what looks like a rounded window there. There's a square one on the platform. I've focused in, we'll see that one there, walkway going up. These look like Egyptian type of step structures. There's a beautiful structure there on that platform. That's a ribbed structure there. Then there's a square ribs on it, rounded. I've taken very clear pictures of that building there, that square entrance, the pillars supporting that wall there, and the side beams up there. I'll try to just take that up a fraction, especially those ones. As well, the side beams here, 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 and the entrance there. This big round dome on the cliff, and this is a step up object, but there we see a square object. There's one more step there, and I'm trying to focus in on those areas there. It isn't easy, but I'll try and enlarge your pictures. That one there has worked out well. It shows you those steps or ribbed structures, then that big square entrance, then that step up there. This area at 36 seconds is very important, because if we gently lift the screen up, I don't want to lose this image, I've taken zooms. What we see here is like apartment buildings. And there's a nice U-shaped structure right there. You'll see the individual pillars supporting the openings. And you'll see the step up. Now what we see is a dome there, and I've zoomed in as though it's a large apartment complex. It's square on top, and you'll see windows, pillars right there. That's amazing. You'll see that object's right up there. Similar type of construction right there. Just looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 are levels. That's more of a rectangle image. Now, they covertly flew very low down to film this, and it only lasted very briefly, about 5 seconds, and they quickly shot up again. There's nothing there that looks like it's human construction. You'll see that object there as well. Support a beam right there. One object goes sideways. This looks like a tube that goes down. There's an opening right there. And there's one tower that goes right up there. I'll try to zoom in on. These are just fantastic images. This is at 36 seconds. Now, here is where we have very important structures coming in on the cliff surface. The 5 megapixel camera I've used has brought this up very well. Imagine the shock of the astronauts as they fly over and see this. And they're warned, you have to keep this secret. You've just flown over an alien city. I don't think it's an Earth-made city. Now, just look at the apartment building right there. It's in about 4 layers. Look at that square rectangular one coming over there, that dome, that large dome there in the opening. These are 2 extravagant designs for 1969. You can't just build this a few years. I mean, these are so intricate. Just look at that object there. There's a tower coming up. There's a stepwise complex going up there. There's a tower up there. Now, I've actually zoomed in on this. It shows what looks like a very big rectangle and a tube coming off that turns at right angles right there. There's a hole there, or a black entrance. There's one beautiful black entrance up there. And there's a group of these apartments right there on the surface. They don't look human design. There's a tubular structure going right there and a great black opening right there. You can see the opening. There's a tower there. You can see the two pillars on top, and I'll zoom in on that. What looks like stepwise buildings, 1, 2, 3, 4, and openings there. Everything is unique. There's no repetition. On Earth, we always build with repetition. If these were Earth structures, you would see repetition, you would see excavations, you would see roads, you would see square buildings going up, all the same shape. Just look at the patterns there. I'll zoom in on that actually. I just noticed that now, stepwise. That is excellent. That shows you a perfect 5 level or 6 level apartment. There's an object right on top. It sounds ridiculous. This is 1969. Apollo 11 just flew over. It covertly flew down very low over this to take images, and then obviously it landed somewhere you wouldn't see all this. Just look at that structure there, the way it's got step forms. There's a building there. It seems to go up. It's perfectly white. Now there's a perfect climate on the moon. There's no hurricane winds, rain. It's just 12 hours daylight, 12 hours night, constant temperature, condensation. It's a perfect living area. Just look at all the intricate designs in there. I'll try to zoom in and grab a few more pictures. This is the video on Facebook, so let's go through it again. It's Apollo 11, semicolon, lunar landing, July 20th, 1969. So I'll enlarge in and just go through it step by step again very quickly to show if there's any potential we've had errors there. So this is the video. I'll just pause it when we come into about 33 seconds again. So these are the structures I'm actually zooming in on. They look like rocks, but they're a bit bizarre. So I'll actually watch how it changes during the flyover to see if there's any chance it's distortion. I don't think it is. Obviously these are old images and they're flying over very high speed. So let's go through that area again. It's still there, and those tubes lead over the cliff. So that's why that's bizarre. Now we'll just watch if that changes. It hasn't changed as we go step by step. Now the next area that's unusual will be those areas under the cliff face there. Nothing special in that one. The only area that I've found interesting is that area there on the ledge where objects seem to be on flat ledges and there's walkways or paths around it. That area does not change in the video as well. So if we just go forward, there it is again. Could be innocent. My zooms have shown that it isn't. So let's go to the next most obvious area. Is that area there. It just seems too bizarre. That sticks out sideways. And if you freeze the image, you'll see like a square object right there and things like that. So that's why, to me, it just looked a bit strange. And they purposely flew very low over this area. So there it is there. It just seems a bit strange. Something there has been pixeled out. It's as though areas have been purposely censored. It just seems like that from my point of view. That should be clear. So obviously there could be something there, and that's why we see that a pixelated, blurred area where everything else is clear. See how that, we'll take that screen down lower. That area there is very strange. Now see how that just does not look like a rock, especially that thing there. It's step up. Now here's where the other strange things come in on the right hand side of the screen. They haven't been blurred. That tower there, round black knob on it. This there, we'll keep an eye on that, see if that changes during the image. And that tube comes over. That doesn't change. It's got that opening right there. That, what looks like an apartment complex right there, does not change. It's 1, 2, 3 levels. So let's go through and see if that changes as we watch it. That tower is still there. what looks like 3 or 4 levels apartments hasn't changed. That tube going across the ground, which is very common in other images of the moon, has that aperture opening right there that hasn't changed. Then we come to this area here, and what's going to pop up there? Someone has tried to blur this. It looks like a rectangular building right there. And this there does not look normal. They're like walkways or pathways leading up. And that tower looks like a big beer bottle there, and it's got that rounded top. That doesn't change. So let's go through there and see if that changes as we go over. It hasn't changed. There's that, what looks like a tower complex, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That rounded tube going over, opening there with that black aperture there hasn't changed. Now this is where we get that, what looks like a rectangle there, and that round tower, and then this big dome on top. So let's just go through that. It's there still. There's a white area underneath. That what looks like an apartment complex, many layers, is still there. I won't call it apartment complex, but obviously there's very strange shapes there that I'm trying to analyze. It's very hard to do it at high speed. Some things have been blurred. I think some things have been blurred on here. So let's analyze again just to try to make sure there's no accidental image blurring. That's where I saw the first very strange structures. They shouldn't be that sort of shape. And that tube that goes over the cliff there just goes straight up. So that's where I'm starting to see strange things. We'll just see if anything's been censored. There it goes up there. There's a round dome there. And there's some structures under there. It just seems very bizarre to be rock. There's that triangular shape there. Let's go through it. Then that's where I see that strange object there. It's a step up object. Right there. Let's go through it step by step. There's that strange thing again. It's like a dome. We see the cliff face there. That hasn't changed. That area there just seems strange how it steps up, and then you've got these platforms there that I've zoomed in on. So far I haven't seen anything censored in these images, so we'll keep going. This is where I see the next strange thing that just shouldn't be that sort of shape. That hangs over. It's like a rectangular tower there. And we see the step-ups happening there. We'll just see if that changed. Now, something appears though has been censored right there. We'll just go forward with that and see what's there. It's just a huge mass that looks like it's been painted on there. And something there has been censored. Look at it. That whole area is blurred. It could be a big tower. That area is still blurred. So there we have that object. And let's go forward a bit to find that other area that I... There's that tower. There it is. It's got a black dome on top. There's that tube coming across, the black aperture. I think that there is a NASA logo that's been superimposed. We'll just go forward. Yeah, it was. It was all pixelated. The strange thing is that area is still there. That does not change. It's got 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 layers there, and it's got that object on top. And this is where we come to the next strange area as well. That is a square. Something there has been pixelated. You can tell it's been blurred on purpose, that area right there. That tube is still there, the aperture, that rounded object there, and what looks like some things there that have been blurred. That is a square. And these are towers coming up. And these are objects on the side, but that's been blurred. You can tell something's there has been actually pixelated and blurred. Let's go through that, see if it changes. It hasn't changed. That square object is there. That rounded object is there. And that tube that goes across with an aperture is still there. These are very hard images to catch at that speed. Something there has been blurred by the looks of it. I see a lot of steps coming down from there. There's a platform. That obviously can't be a rock, so that hasn't been blurred. You can see it just coming over. It's like a tube that comes over. And those things, well, that step has changed. So obviously that was an artifact, but that isn't an artifact. So let's go through how these things could be artifacts. You see how that does not change. It comes over, it's a tube, goes over the cliff surface. There it is again. Now that thing there that I photographed before, that's actually a NASA symbol right there. So that's an artifact. See how that changes? That's the NASA logo. That there is still there. And that object there is on the surface. Let's go back again. That to me does not look natural there. So that was my first indication. There it is again. Those tubes go over the cliff is not natural. The reason I'm repeating this is just to go over this so many times. Anything that could be an artifact produced by superimposition we get rid of. That is not natural, that structure there. That object there on the cliff, that doesn't change, that's still there. That object there, tower, looks like a big beer, a bottle, doesn't change, and that object there doesn't change. And that tube there doesn't change at all. So these are objects that do not change. What looks like a tower right there, a black tower, they don't change. Something comes up here that looks like a square tower, and that round aperture, that doesn't change at all. Some things have been blurred. Something looks like it's been blurred down there. These are the images that I zoomed in from the flyover. They start about 33 seconds. Now, it's very difficult to get clear images. Now, once I saw this near the cliff, I knew something is up. It just does not look like a normal object there. So I just try to zoom in gently. And you'll see that triangle type shape. Now, the giveaway signs are a tube that goes over the cliff face. It looks like as though it's transporting objects up and down. Look at it. That's when I started to think there could be more to this. So the new camera's 5 megapixel. Seems to catch things fairly well. Let's go to the next picture. There it is again. You got the tubes leading up. The object there. Can't say much about this picture. They're very hard to get the correct time, and you have to make sure they're not aberrations or just images produced by the flyover caught in a different way. So there you got one tower coming over, that tube coming over. This obviously was at a cliff face. That's unusual in itself, so that's why obviously I paid more attention to that one. And I showed in the video where that was. Now that has a definite shadow. They're tubular objects on the cliff face, so obviously that needs more attention. This was that side of the cliff on the left, and it just seemed as though that sits on the platform, and these were just rectangular type of carvings in there. I think that's been blurred. There was something sticking up there, so there's been some correction happening by NASA, I believe, but they haven't picked everything up. Not much to prove on that one. This sits on the cliff platform. It's unusual, and there's that object that goes up. It's 1, 2, 3 bumps on it. It's like a tubular process. This is very common on other images on the moon as well, so that's why I paid attention to that one. And there's a circular object right there. There's that object on the side as well. This could be blurring further up, but I doubt how accidental blurring will produce those columns going across. Let's take a further look. It just doesn't seem like accidental. Now that object there just looks out of place. There it is again. You'll see a definite patterns happening there, and that object as well. Now here's that object at the bottom of the cliff surface, and on this side I'll zoom in later. It seems like a tower, a wing-shaped tower going up, and there's the two parts of the wings. I've zoomed in separately on that one. You see the domes on it, and it's got that pyramid type shape, and there's obviously an object right there. That was bizarre as well. It just doesn't seem like a rock should look. That didn't change throughout the flyover. This is an object that goes up. It's got a rounded surface and like two apertures on it. Again, you need more images of that. I'm not happy with that one. Here's that white building. It looks like it's 5 layers. Now, it does not change at all throughout the flyover. Now, what's interesting, I've caught in all the frames and it's constant. And in some frames, it looks like you can actually see inside. There's windows or whatever. So there's a tower that goes up there. There's that object. Now this is constant. It's a tube that runs across. It comes in that rounded area. It's got a whole aperture right there. And that remains constant in the flyover. These tubes are very commonplace on the moon. This does not change. It's a rectangular object right there. It's got a little dome on top. And next to it on that side, you'll see the next image is a white dome as well. So that remains rectangular throughout the flyover. It's very specific, isn't it? There it is again. That's a great image. There's a rounded cylinder and a rounded object on top of that aperture opening. Now, I've seen these images before in other moon images, and I thought they could be artifacts or just accidentally produced, but it doesn't seem. This was very hard to capture. I'm not sure if that's been pixel blurring on purpose, but that is a definite square structure. There's obviously objects there. There's a platform there, and then it goes to that circular object and then around a dome. It's very unique. It isn't the way humans would build it. It requires very unique designs. Everything here is unique. Not one thing repeats itself ever, I found. Okay, it's going to be hard to do. It's just objects left, right, and center. But it shows you the tubes coming over, the smooth flowing lines which humans wouldn't produce. That's a difficult one to examine. There's objects coming up, there's a tube going over and a rectangle down there. That's constant. It's a tube that goes all the way down that cliff edge. And that stays constant throughout the flyover. It's one other platform. It's got a curved tube coming over. It seems to be raised like a tower. And this is a common pattern I've seen in the other moon images as well. There's that tube that comes over the cliffside. I'm not sure how I got that. It could be just an artifact from the NASA symbol. I don't want to dwell too much on that one. It just, there's an object there. I can't repeat that. That's the only problem. I can't repeat that image. I don't know how I got it. Okay, there's that image near the cliff face. It's got the structures there. And something's happening further up. Stepwise patterns occurring. An obvious cylinder shape. Don't want to dwell too much. This is where we have that step shape occurring. Goes up. Steps, platforms. Not that clear. Here's again those structures down the bottom of that first image. Just when the flyover occurs, when you see something's there that shouldn't be there. Got the V shape and what looks like apparent building structures right there. I think that's why they flew over very low to this area, then they took off again. I think they filmed a lot more than they're showing us. Here are these structures going over. And yet I would keep it classified as well. I mean, it'd be quite scary that obviously there's aliens on the moon, there's previous inhabitants been there, and there's that object there. And they looked very frightened at the interview when they landed. They didn't want to talk much. They just kept holding their hands and looked very scared to talk. So I think they obviously saw these structures and We're actually threatened with the Secrecy Act not to introduce a panic, I think. I'll do the same thing. There are those objects up there. Step up objects. Some of these pictures I'm not happy with, they're blurred. Now this is what I caught that looks like the same sort of white building as pillars, what look like windows. Let me zoom in on that. There it is there. These are very hard to catch at the right frame. There it is. And obviously openings down there as well. See what I mean? It just doesn't look like it's accidental. Look at it. There's one other frame. They look like definite openings. Buildings, columns going up. Does not look accidental. This is just bizarre. It just shows a tube that goes sideways, up vertically and across that platform. It just does not look like an accidental normal structure. There it is. Look at it, zigzag. I'll take it back down to normal size. Perfect. Look at that. Boom, boom, boom. More of these structures. Not that clear, this one. That shows definite zigzag patterns and that cliff face there. There's that object there, pillars. Seems an object on that cliff platform right there. Step ups that look like step ups, walkway up this area. It's not easy. I don't like to pretend to see things that are not there, so I'll jump that one. That object is very definite. It's a rounded white dome and object there. One more type of unusual pattern. Again, this shows like a building, an opening right there, square-like. Cliff walkway on the side, and these are definite patterns. I don't think it's in the frame. There we go. Look at that. Zigzag patterns, a big round dome. Too many pillars in this one. You see the pillars, you see the windows or openings. That's as clear as I can get that one. Doesn't seem accidental, that one. There's that square building again, the square opening. That round object on the cliff face. The pillars, the square opening. Square object here on that platform and step up to this object there. Again, that object we zoomed in on before coming down, and that object further up. It's as clear as I can get that. Definite patterns, but it looks like a step-up system going all out. These look like a rod going up, windows. Some patterns are there, but they're very hard to differentiate. Again, we see that step-up pattern, the patterns happening. Step up, around platform, that object up there. That object seems to sit on that platform there. There's that object again. It just looked like it's going upwards. There's windows on the side there. It is strange. Again, I would like to have a clearer shot, but I can't. Here we see objects going up. Crisscross patterns. Not much there I can show you. That to me looks like a building. It's got openings on the side. Very definite black openings. See it there? That's rounded. That's rounded. These are rounded. It looks like a building with openings. And there are the openings. They're perfect. That's the area there as well. Same sort of thing, but more openings on this one. There, square. Then you've got upright shapes. And these shapes there. Step up from that platform there. I'd like to have clearer pictures, but I haven't got them. There's obviously things happening here. These are not accidental shapes. Look at that. That's like a walkway. That's an excellent picture. Actually, that shows like a cover on top. There's an entrance down that black area. Goes up, steps up that way, and there's an object up there and zigzag patterns on that cliff. Look at that. I don't think these are accidental patterns there. They've all got openings as though they're housing objects inside. There's vertical columns there. Wow, that's great. And here it looks like that is a perfect cover on top, and the entrance is down there and walkway down there, and you go further up. That is a great image. That one's hard, but it's obviously something at the cliff at the bottom. Again, I need clear images. I haven't got them. There's that rounded sphere, two apertures or openings. Can't do much of that one. Something's happening there. You see the individual openings on those buildings right there. You see 1, 2, 3. Certain domes like windows appearing there. Again, very hard to catch the right thing, but things are happening there. See that perfect line in the middle? It's like a dome. It's got supports on each side. Here's that white building that does not change shape. Looks like it's 4 or 5 levels, tubes going across, and one more tower next to it. And in the next few pictures, that opens up as it flies over. It stays the same. See more detail to it. This was unusual. This was an object on the ground, but you've got a definite square patterns to it, and like a walkway. There's a walkway that goes up, and you see all the individual steps going up. Tricky one, that one, but things are happening. Now here's that thing that looks like a big beer bottle or wine bottle. That does not change shape as it flies over. I'll just enlarge it. There it is there. It looks like a big beer bottle type shape. It's got the rounded object there. There and surrounded by those white rounded domes down the bottom. It's unusual, isn't it? But it does not change shape at all. Here we've got what looks like pillars there, a dome, and it's on the cliff face, so it's again, it's very hard to zoom in on that one. There's that white building again. Look at it. Something's happening there. That is not normal. And there's openings are there, and I think there's 2 pillars you can see down the bottom there. I think I've caught one frame where they open up. That's a cliffside image of a white type of building that goes up. I'm not sure if they use a natural type of concrete that's made from the composition of the moon substance. There it is again. Look at it. There's a tower next to it with a dome on top. Now here it's opened up a bit more. I love these images. So you can see the 2 apertures here on the side. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5 layers happening. Then that object goes up there. There's that square object, and something comes off at 90 degrees. And some towers next to it and around a dome. I'll try to catch that again, one other image. That was on here, and to the left you got something rounded and white, a sphere on top and an aperture opening. That stays constant as it flies over. There it is again. There's that square and what looks like a 90-degree angle coming off at a wall or something like that. And obviously there's small buildings around it. That does not change in the flyover. That's one step up a building as well on the mountain. You see it there as well. Not that clear, I'm not happy with that one. Here's that square object again, one little round dome and some structures on the side. I'll see if I can enlarge it, but that's the clearest I can get that. Two together. There's the rounded object, the sphere, that very thin rectangle object, the tube coming off of the aperture, and the white V shape that connects both of them on the surface of the mountain. Here we go. That's better. That's a definite rectangle. That's an aperture opening there, the white tube, that's an opening there. It's like a white object there. These are very good. Wow, that's a good image. Something is happening on that cliff surface. They're not normal structures. There it is again. Sorry to repeat, I'm just trying to get as many pictures. Something's happening here. It's very interesting. Looks like a tree there or some sort of growth. Then you've got the white shapes. Then you got the definite lines coming across. That was just a NASA symbol, so I was scared not to use that. Something's happening there. You got things coming across. There was that black square object, remember? And here we see some little objects on top of it that have come in. Maybe clearer image, like little towers or antennas. Again, it could be clearer, but that's the best I've got. Now this is that zigzag tube that goes over, straight up, straight across. It just seems very unnatural to do that on the surface of the moon. Here's that beer bottle shape. It goes up, it doesn't change. It's got the big rounded knob on top. It's got the white little small spheres around it. There's an aperture there, entrance, and looks like one there, but there it is again, that shape. That didn't change during the flyover. There it is again, that's where it was. That's one opening there and little white buildings next to it. There's that tube that goes down the side. Looks like a big caterpillar, but these are like, I think, transport tubes. There's an object that goes down, and then you've got like little columns on the side. Very hard to get that precisely. Things are happening there, but I couldn't zoom in that well. There's that object at the bottom of the cliff. It's rounded, a dome, then a square, a building underneath. That's obviously something, but it's very hard to work out what it is. This is interesting. That was a big cliff. There's that object underneath we focused in on before, and what we got here is that wing-shaped tower. In the next few pictures, I've zoomed in on the actual shape of it. It looks like a big wasp nest. It's very, very, very beautiful structure. And then you've got that flat area and a dome on there. I'll see if I've zoomed in closer. There it is. It's got like the wings on top. It goes down. There's that object there. One dome, one other dome. There it is. And the next picture, we focus in on the way this is designed. So it looks like two wings coming across. There's that white building. And this picture is the first time you can sort of see the individual columns and the open windows there. Look at that. See the openings, black openings there. I think are windows. See it? There it is there. One more zoom on it. One more zoom. That's a good zoom. Another one. Further away, not that clear. And more tubes.